Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Al P. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Over the weekend, a Reddit user posted this sign, said coming soon, 75 plus superchargers opening by the end of the year in Las Vegas. And this checks out. If you go to supercharge.info, you'll see this map. The Las Vegas Strip is right here. The red circles are current Tesla superchargers that are up and running. The blue will be sites that have been permitted, and the yellow triangles are going to be sites that are currently under construction. So with these 5 sites that are likely coming soon before the end of this year, that would be about 15 stalls per station to hit that 75 mark, opening up before the end of this year. Thailand's prime minister just said that the country expected to receive an investment of $5 billion from Tesla, Google, and Microsoft, saying Tesla would be looking into an EV manufacturing facility. Microsoft and Google are looking at data centers, without detailing whether that $5 billion was per company or combined. We know that Thailand has been offering incentives and tax cuts to try to incentivize some local manufacturing, but as we've been hearing lately, Tesla may not be in a rush to announce its next factory. Just a quick refresher, Luhut Panjaitan from Indonesia has said that they're not going to do any expansion for the next 1 or 2 years. That was referring to Tesla. He said Elon gives a very clear message about what happened to the global economy and concern also about the overcapacity. I'd also add, with Tesla working on the next gen platform now at Austin, it's going to take some time for them to figure it out there before they have a design that they're ready to then export to this next Gigafactory, wherever it may be, because again, that's expected to be the factory that makes the next gen platform at scale. And yes, Giga Mexico will eventually be one of them, but it sounds like that might not be until 2027. This morning, we have Joe Tetmeyer reporting that at Giga Texas, all employees are back to work today, training, final prep, test production of Model Y bodies, and at least 2 master candidate Cybertrucks produced and imaged today outside, saying everything should be back to operational status to resume full production by next week. He also shared some images of the crash testing facility at Giga Texas, saying it's about ready to do the first crash test very soon. So here's the outside of this facility. And then we get a glimpse into the inside, and you can see this second Model Y back here does indeed have crash test dummies in the front seats. Joe also shared this image saying it's a brief look into the casting where the furnace is to recycle aluminum that's completing installation. This was a pretty cool video shared by Real Rusty on YouTube. Apparently a world record 255 Teslas putting on a Tesla Lightshow. This was done in part by Tesla Club Austria for an EV event in Germany. So I thought that was pretty neat. Tesla Recruiting shared a really nice video saying to date, 60 deaf employees are part of the Giga Berlin team, a large portion being Ukrainians who fled the war. I won't share all of them, but they did touch on some really nice, heartwarming stories of people leaving terrible situations and finding a home at Tesla. So it's nice to see. Along similar lines, Tesla has a job placement program for veterans also at Giga Berlin. The first retired soldiers under a special program will begin working at Giga Berlin. The company said about 50 military personnel are in the active recruitment process. This military transition program started at Tesla around November of last year, and some of these workers will start in logistics, maintenance, and security. Alexandra shared this article over the weekend, and and it said currently there are more than 300 full-time positions advertised in Grünheide. Now this is not for military specific, this is just general positions. And it has been said in the past, Tesla pays significantly better than is customary locally, but it'd be great to get an update on Giga Berlin on the Q3 call, because we've been hearing that Tesla has been having trouble hiring for Giga Berlin, which is why production has reportedly been below where it could be. This was posted a few weeks ago, but was making its rounds this weekend, this coming from a design execution team member at Tesla. He shared a few Model 3 Plus intricacies that may have been overlooked. They worked on gap and flush control improvements around the headlamps beneath the fascia surface to achieve the flush appearance, which is important for aerodynamics, and he noted some improvements to the door open and close sounds as well. He also mentioned the genuine aluminum detailing on the console, soft foamed pillars and headliner, soft wrapped surfaces, hidden microphones and speakers behind the trim, and more. Just a few details that may have been missed. The Tesla wall connector now will cost 9,000 credits, up from 5,500 before. Over the weekend, deliveries of the refreshed Model S have resumed in Japan. In case you're wondering, yes, Japan is a right-hand drive country, but Tesla no longer makes the right-hand drive variants of the S and X. So Tesla will be selling left-hand drive variants in Japan, which are usually seen as a status symbol. Before the refresh, Tesla was only selling a few hundred of these per quarter in Japan, so the new number going forward may be lower than that.
One of the things that's happening in the auto industry, as you know, is this market shift and transition to electric vehicles. You were quoted back in July saying you look forward to buying a union-made electric vehicle, but you currently have a non-union-made Tesla. UAW already makes some electric vehicles. So why wasn't that? Is it a problem with the quality? Is it a problem with the style? Is the market just not there?
No, our car was purchased during the pandemic when before a vaccine had come out. So travel between New York and Washington, the safest way that we had determined was an EV, but that was prior to some of the new models coming out on the market that had the range available. But we're actually looking into trading in our car now, so.
Over the weekend, this article was talking about the Auburn City Council in California approving the decision to buy a Tesla for their police fleet. They're making mistakes saying Model Y, Model 3. Either way, though, it sounds like they decided to reallocate funds that were going to buy a Chevy Tahoe, but now instead they'll end up with a Tesla. And interesting anecdote, they said there was a lack of police vehicles available for purchase that led the department to transition to buying a Tesla. And most importantly, the police department will evaluate the reasonableness of implementing additional EVs into its fleet. I'm not going to draw any conclusions from this, but I did want to pass it along so maybe you can check your own. If you have a Cybertruck reservation number starting with 112, you now may be missing your specs. The theory goes that this would be the first delivery cohort, but again, no confirmation, just passing this along. Gavin Newsom has vetoed Assembly Bill 316, which would have required human attendance in driverless vehicles over 10,000 pounds. In his message, he said it's unnecessary for the regulation and oversight of heavy-duty autonomous vehicle tech, adding the existing regulatory framework is sufficient. He also noted the California DMV was given regulatory authority over autonomous vehicles in the state. The DMV consults the State Highway Patrol, NHTSA, and others with relevant experience to write laws to ensure autonomous vehicle safety. So in effect, the DMV also regulates robotaxis. Of course, many people are not loving that veto because they're worried about future job loss. To which Newsom said that he would work with the Labor and Workforce Department to work with stakeholders to recommend ways to mitigate the damage of self-driving trucks that they may have on employment. Remember, California is a very important state to watch because when it comes to plans and policies, many other states are just following whatever California chooses to do. This report was making its rounds this weekend, but we actually touched on this weeks ago. In case you missed it or forgot though, it's just saying the 10-year maintenance costs for the average BMW amount to 25% of the original purchase price, down here in 13th. Meanwhile, the 10-year cost of maintaining the average Tesla is just 7% of the original purchase price, the least of any luxury brand. It looks like starting today, over in the EU, we have the Working Party on Automated and Autonomous and Connected Vehicles in their 17th session, operating from today for the next 4 days. Clicking around, I was able to find the agenda where they mention functional requirements for automated and autonomous vehicles, validation methods for automated driving, and data storage systems for automated driving, and a host of other topics all related to AI in vehicles and autonomy. So hopefully these sessions help to pave the way for FSD being approved in Europe and eventually released. There was an interesting piece from the Wall Street Journal that was basically highlighting all of the attacks on Elon Musk and suggesting that he's kind of become public enemy number one. I'm not going to dive into this because over the past few months we have covered all of these, but this just aggregates all of these interesting investigations that are taking place against Elon and his companies. So whether it's demands for documents or complaints related to the dress code at Tesla, all of these things with the DOJ investigations add up to a collection of probes into Elon's ventures that are unusual enough to suggest what the Justice Department likes to call a pattern or practice. I just think this is something we should all store in the back of our minds, and then over the next year or two, watch how this changes, if at all, if the political environment changes. For the latest on Lucid's upcoming SUV, the Gravity, a formal reveal of the crossover is expected this year, according to Lucid, with production next year, and Auto Forecast Solutions is guessing deliveries will come in the third quarter of 2024. Lucid reiterated it will have greater electric range than any SUV on the market today. Speaking of Lucid, it just got its operating license to start EV production in one of Saudi Arabia's special economic zones that offer certain types of incentives. They're still touting plans to make 150,000 EVs annually at this Saudi facility, but they are saying that Lucid will reassemble Air electric sedan models pre-built in Arizona. Either way, they said mass production is expected to begin by next year. Bear in mind, Lucid's registrations in the United States were under 3,800 for the first 7 months of this year. Just a heads up, Polestar has opened its first retail location in North Carolina, specifically in Charlotte. And they said as of September 21st, all 31 Polestar spaces in North America now feature the Polestar 3 SUV display prototype in showrooms. One that I've really been wanting to see in person, and I'm waiting for one closer to where I'm at. Despite the UK postponing its 2030 ban on the sale of petrol and diesel cars to 2035, Nissan has come out and committed to all vehicles sold in Europe being electric by 2030. Nissan's boss said the move was the right thing to do. And they're saying Nissan is the only car company to have its own battery manufacturing capabilities in the UK. Now they have to walk the walk, but it's good to hear. A user on Reddit shared a very interesting chart. Now this is just personal data, so certainly nothing official, but it's the price of electricity at 67 superchargers he's been to over the past 6 years. Back in 2018, if you take a rough average, it was around 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Fast forward 5 years or so, and the new average now sits in the neighborhood of 35 cents per kilowatt hour. So this highlights 1, the rising price of electricity, but 2, the importance and benefit of charging at home, where most of the time rates will be below most of the data points on this graph. Last week, we heard that UAW and Ford were making progress on negotiations, but that GM and Stellantis were still pretty far apart from where the UAW was at. Over the weekend, Ford said on Sunday, despite progress in some areas, it still has significant gaps to close on key economic issues before it can reach a deal with the UAW. Sadly, that's the only real new information we get with this article. And Starlink is now available on all 7 continents in over 60 countries and many more markets, connecting over 2 million active customers and counting with high-speed internet. So here we have it. All the chatter this weekend has been about the video Tesla released on the progress it's making with Optimus, and rightfully so. Naturally, we have a cohort of people saying Optimus is worth trillions and is about to replace all labor, and others are saying the video is CGI and it's fake, it's staged by Tesla. So who's right? Tesla has said what we saw is trained fully end to end. video in and controls out, just like Tesla's FSD-12. This would lead us to believe Optimus is already using the same framework to learn at an advanced pace, the one that it took Tesla 7+ years to figure out and to bring to operation for FSD. Yes, this has absurd implications. With time, the brain that Optimus has, the neural networks, will be fed video footage of a task, and without any human code or programming, Optimus will be able to learn and ultimately mimic that task while also learning to dynamically adjust when the real world throws curveballs. But the question still needs to be posed, how much is being done with heuristics or code, as some things may be better suited for heuristics at this stage, especially for clearly defined simple tasks. But first, the video itself. We see the self-calibration, but how often does Optimus have to do this? After every charge? Every time it's powered down? Once? Optimus can already precisely locate its limbs in space using its 6 cameras, and the dots you see are reference points, helping it to create a 3D version of itself. And while this yoga pose may just seem like a playful demonstration, don't overlook the balancing properties. A huge hurdle for Optimus will be the ability to bend down, pick things up, and walk over different terrains while holding and manipulating heavier objects. Balance is of course a critical component of that ability. So Tesla's building the brain for Optimus with end-to-end neural networks using much of the same architecture and software as FSD, and Tesla is also building the actuators from scratch because there was nothing available off the shelf, and this is in line with Tesla's desire to vertically integrate as much as possible. As SuC said, Optimus uses additional sensing like audio, proprioception, and temperature just like most animals, but it does not use LiDAR, radar, ultrasonics, or HD map shenanigans. I thought that subtle jab was meaningful. He went on to say, it'll become so obvious over the coming years, we'll be wondering why anyone thought those were a great idea. He also added neural networks and cameras work amazingly well and really are the solution to robotics. Same solution for the car, for Optimus, and will be for all such artificial animals. Then we have James Dauma saying the body dynamics were so good, he was having a hard time believing the video was real, and he said this was the neural network-based body control he's been waiting to see. NVIDIA's senior AI scientist commented that the smooth hand movements are almost certainly being trained by imitation learning or behavior cloning from human operators rather than the bot learning in a simulation, which usually leads to jittery motion and unnatural hand poses. He was genuinely impressed by the hardware quality, the motions were fluid, and he said the aesthetics were amazing as well. Adding, it's a great decision to follow human morphology closely so that there's no gap in imitating humans. Let us not forget, Tesla has only been working on Optimus for around 2 years. You may recall this version of Optimus, so to look back on the progress that's been made is certainly impressive and does become even more exciting if Optimus really is almost entirely being trained with an end-to-end neural network, because this would signal very rapid advancements and learning should be coming in the months ahead. Naturally, we have plenty of skeptics sprouting up right now saying the video's fake. Perhaps the most widely circulated argument is this video clip where Fly4Dat, a notable Tesla skeptic, is saying one block moves sideways when it shouldn't. If you watch closely though, I think it's the pinky of Optimus releasing the block that grazes the connection point of the block, pushing it sideways and backwards. I'd also add, it's a bit disrespectful to the engineers spending long hours working on this, but this is nothing new for Tesla. This is going to be exactly like the Cybertruck being CGI all over again. People saying it's not real and it'll never enter production. Or even better, it'll be like people saying Waymo and Cruise are way ahead of Tesla because of SAE level 4 when Tesla's just level 2. From an uninitiated perspective, sure, that makes sense, but for anyone that actually knows what's going on beneath the surface, understanding the nuances of the situation, knows how fraudulently incorrect that take really is. It's going to be the same with Optimus. We will continually see people shouting that Boston Dynamics is way ahead of Tesla's Optimus. Now, first and foremost, anyone making this comparison is a fool. These two are not to be compared, full stop. They're optimizing for entirely different use cases. Further, Boston Dynamics has been at work for decades. Tesla for 2 years. BD's Atlas only has simple gripper-style hands. Optimus has bidextrous 5-finger hands that, in the long run, will be far superior for daily tasks. But one of the biggest questions will always boil down to manufacturability, scale, and cost. And don't forget, the actual real-world utility of any robot will be largely dependent on the software, the brain, to be able to adapt and adjust when real-world things happen. What happens when a child runs up and grabs Optimus's leg? Optimus has a brain, and this means that with time, it should be able to learn and adjust on the fly just as a human would. Tesla is optimizing for scalability and real-world AI, and while the Boston Dynamics engineering is very impressive, questions still remain about the real-world applications, scalability, and cost. And we do still have way more questions about Optimus than answers. How often does it fall? Can it brace itself when falling? How often does it charge? How long does it take to make one? What percentage of the parts are designed in-house by Tesla? What are Tesla's plans for deploying the first few hundred bots? Is it using a large language model for prompts yet? I could go on, but you get the picture. As Elon said, Tesla is making progress with Optimus, but I'm not going to be another voice wildly speculating about market cap implications, job displacement, or ultimate costs. Not yet. The way I see it, there are just too many unknowns. We will need another AI day to learn more, to see a live demonstration, to hear about production methods, initial applications, and the like. And if you're wondering why Tesla stock hasn't moved today, then I've failed you if you've been around the channel for any amount of time. Short-term Tesla stock movements are a terrible proxy for understanding fundamental progress being made at Tesla. As Gary Black said, him and most of Wall Street don't include some of Tesla's biggest breakthroughs in their models at all, and Optimus is no different. It's not going to get any credit in the stock price until Tesla starts earning revenue or saving money from Optimus, which could still be years away. But as always with Tesla, it's about the long game, and the longer the players on the sideline don't understand and remain skeptical, the higher the stock trajectory will be when these breakthrough innovations actually hit the market. So the hyperbulls are probably a bit over their skis, and the skeptics are still totally lost in the sauce sipping on haterade. The truth lies in the middle, but if you have time on your side, the truth lies much closer to the hyperbull arguments. And when you start to compare Tesla's Optimus to the robots from Ford and GM, well, you begin to see the monumental differences between the companies and why Tesla is deserving of a much larger valuation multiple, in my opinion. What I do know for sure, though, is this. The next 2 years plus are going to be some of the most exciting times in the world of Tesla, and if you've been around the past decade, you'll understand the weight of that statement. So buckle up, because yes, Optimus is absolutely going to change the world, but it's also true we have a long journey ahead before this actually happens at scale. So for now, we just enjoy the process and the progress that Tesla is making, and as always, patience will be rewarded.